So I'd like to introduce myself. I go under the name Kali or Franciska, and I live in Sweden, and where we have a small sangha, and I teach the Dharma there. And I have also been teaching with Radha in Sarnath a couple of times, I believe. It's been a while, and it's been a while for many of us with the pandemic and everything that's happened. So I'm very glad to be here. Thank you. So, can you really hear me okay?
A little bit louder.
Oh, louder. Please come closer. Come here. Okay. When I get sensitive, I tend to get less loud. Is that better? Yeah. So, Christopher Titmus has also been one of my major teachers, especially in the beginning of my practice time, in the 80s, been a while. I've also been sitting quite a few one-month retreats at Spirit Rock in the United States with Jack Hornfield and other friends there. So, we lovers of India, we are all Indiawalas, Christopher always used to say. When I first came to India, I remember, this is a little sidetrack. I remember waking up early morning in Varanasi, called Benares in those days, hearing all India radios playing morning raga, quietly waking everybody up. Beautiful. Well, All India Radio, I don't know if it still exists. Yes? Yeah. With modern technology, we now have loudspeakers in each and every other vehicle, as you may have noticed. And the influence of Western music has not been so kind on the classical Indian music tradition, I would say, with roots back to medieval times. But I'm not here to speak about music, am I? Although I could and would love to at another time. But referring to the talk by the hindrances the other day by Suchitra, I was very much aversive, especially on Sunday night, believing, oh, this is going to go on for the whole week. And then it was over on Monday. You notice? And now it's not there. So, watching aversiveness. If it could be as important to stay modest with sound as for a woman to cover her chest and shoulders, I would be very happy. So aversion, comparing mind, victim happens, to be aware of this all. That's all I can do in these circumstances. And watch and be aware of aversion itself. One good thing to remember is that this too will change. Anicca. This too will change. It's a card I have in my pocket. Anicca. Everything is changing. Everything is impermanent. Skin of my body is going to be entirely exchanged in 7 years, they say. Seasons come and go, day and night. and all experiences, not to mention this body. Yesterday I was young, now I'm older, and sooner and later gone. Anicca. Holding on and resisting is dukkha, suffering, or unsatisfactoriness, stress. Dukkha. And all is empty of self, anatta. So these three cards, anicca, dukkha, anatta. I will come back and speak more about it a little later. So beautifully Radha has exposed to us how the entanglements and distress can be disentangled, teaching the Satipatthana Sutta, the liberation of the heart, mind, chitta. I love it. Thank you for the reminder. So originally the title for this talk was Dancing in Oneness and Particular. And I said that to Radha and she said, why not indivisible? So, okay, dancing in oneness, indivisible, and the particular. And just take whatever resonates for you, whatever fits or sits with you. And excuse me if my English is a bit funny sometimes. Swinglish, I can say. So all is connected, all is one, there's one big fabric of interconnectedness, and we are both the whole and the particular. Each one is a unique flower. Each flower is unique, yet the flower is not saying, I am the flower, the one and only. They're just flowers. So are we, just people, humans. It's all one connected whole. As a particular, we can, on the spiritual path, we can be devoted to an object, or even a person, or a guru, a teacher. And someone told me long ago, I don't know if it's true, that in the Indian tradition, in puja, when they make service, we take our divinity and place it in the deity, and then purify it with water, milk, honey, etc., and pray and pay homage and walk around it. And then the divinity is taken back into us, and we bow to ourselves. So we actually are devoted to ourselves, not our ordinary self, but our no self. So what is being purified? The notion of self, maybe, or our habitual way of thinking of ourselves and others. Something about coming to the here and now and to the sacredness of this moment by putting out our devotion out there and then bringing it back. Something beautiful, I find. So this idea or this notion of being a particular, being separated from the whole, you can say it's an idea. I'm in charge here. I'm the agent. I may think I have some control as a particular. But when Anicca, impermanence, comes running down, we realize quite soon that we don't have much control, mostly. The experience of oneness, on the other hand, found to be an important one, important experience. On our spiritual journey, and even if it's an experience that won't last, since no experience lasts, and everything is changing, we can never forget, once we have tasted that flavor of the total being, the total oneness, or the unification, or indivisible, what name we want to put on it. Being identified as a particular, on the other hand, causes so much trouble and unnecessary suffering for us. So to inquire with curiosity into this interconnectedness opens the box of being, and opens the box of being separate, of being isolated, can open the box to experience of being one, or being the totality. So this inquiry into the interconnectedness can be done in so many ways. Contemplating our food, you know that one, what we eat, how it has been grown in the fields, harvested and brought to be cooked, eventually landing on our table. Or just looking at the flowers, the birds, the trees all around us. The shivering of a leaf. Can bring us the message of love, of grace, of interconnectedness. If we see with bare attention, without our story, without our mind uncluttered, without our mind cluttered by the past, I think that's correct, burdened by the past or future, just seeing, with a sidetrack here. Just remember I was taking a driver's license for driving the taxi once when I was young. And I was sitting there in this garage place. And I was seeing the leaves going fluttering, like shivering, fluttering. And there was this amazing sense of magic, or kind of, I just felt that there was something very incredible in that, but nobody else was seeing it. I was like, look at the leaves, look at the leaves. It took me many years to realize that it was like something was happening in that communion between the viewer and the seeing. So where was I now? Yeah. Just being present to what is. Once in a retreat in the Yucca Valley, in the desert, in the United States, it was spring. And you wouldn't believe it, but the desert is full of flowers. The cactuses are flowering and blooming, and it's many colors. It's beautiful. And they told us, we were invited to go out and just find a plant and stand in front of the plant and just be present and have no mind, sort of. Just be there, just look, just be there, watching the plant. And then we had to come back and report. This was a kind of inquiry that we were doing. So going beyond separation, is something that happens actually in the mind. Another experience in my 20s, before I had come across the Dharma, the Buddhist, the Buddha teachings or the Buddhist path, I was a spiritual seeker. I was in India and I met with several teachers, remarkable saints, I call them. And I had a very powerful experience of a total loss of the sense of self, of ego. I was 24 and it was remarkably powerful, and I thought, okay, I'm done, I'm cooked, now I can go home. You know that? I had been in India for 3 months and been very much inquiring into the sense of self and I. And it was so strong, this experience, that when I came, I needed to change my airline tickets, and I thought, okay, I got what I came for, and go home. And I tell everybody, right? We're one. There's no ego. And so at the airport, I was giving my passport to the clerk, officer, and he said, Franciska von Koch. I said, no, come on, that's a joke. I said, and I really meant it. It was such a revelation. It was just a joke. I just went laughing. And this experience, it stayed with me for, I think it was for about 3 weeks. And I came back and I met my girlfriend. She said, what happened? And I said, it's all. And I started telling her, and she said, but I don't feel that. And I tried to explain, and I tried to explain. And while I was trying to explain, of course, who came back? Guess. The ego, of course. One morning, you may say the ego is not existing, that it's an illusion, but the sense of identity came back in the mind. And I could see it in the mirror, because when I looked in the mirror the next morning, oh shit, I'm back. That was the words that I was saying, and I can never forget. The only thing that stayed with me was a sense that it could never get so dark. There was something deep in me that it could never get really, really dark. I could go to identification, I could go into relationship and stories and issues and problems and everything, but something was deep inside knew somewhere. But I wanted this experience again, of course. This was it, right? That's what I thought. Now comes the story about the Dharma. So, I keep doing this always in Sweden too. I start somewhere and then I go off, and then I don't remember. So I went to Gaia House to sit a retreat with Christopher Titmus. It was a 2-week retreat, and it was the second retreat, Vipassana retreat of my life, and from Sweden to England. And I went for an interview, and I said, I had this experience. All was one. I was not there. I didn't have a sense of self. I was nobody. There was no ego. And how can I get this experience again? You know what he said, right? All experiences come and go. They have a beginning, a middle, and an end. That's what he said. This was meeting the Dharma and beginning a path of life. He was right, of course, although maybe he had been a bit dry. I mean, so it's nice for you to have had that experience, but all experience come and go. But he was serious. All experience have a beginning, a middle, and an end. It was very, very important for me to really hear that, and I carried it. It was, 40 years ago? How old am I? Can't count anymore. everything is changing, anicca, constantly. All is in motion, movement, coming, going, appearing, disappearing. So Vipassana means insight. How many years did I need to realize that it was the insight of the experience that I needed to learn from? The insight, not to have the experience itself. I had many other experiences later, different kinds. But to want a specific experience and believe that this experience is going to set me free, or this experience is going to make me feel now, now I got it, or now I'm awake, or this, I don't know how many of you have had that belief. Somehow projecting truth into the future somewhere. Like, it's going to happen. I'm going to get it out somewhere. Maybe this sitting, maybe the next sitting, maybe this retreat. Maybe this breath. Maybe the out-breath. And then I remember Christopher so many times. I hear him saying, "It is not it." It's also one of those sentences that stayed with me. He gave a whole talk called "It is not it." We want to think it is it. This is it. No, this is not it. It's not an object. It's a direct knowing. In duality, when we are aware of something, there is a duality. We are aware. I'm aware of the microphone. I'm aware of you sitting out there. I'm aware of my voice. I'm aware. So there's always this duality. I'm aware of the sound. Let us all dance. It's a wedding. I'm just trying to make you laugh. So is there duality in presence? Is there duality in beingness itself? Each leaf on a tree, each flower in the garden has presence, has beingness, has existence. It's a bit non-Buddhist word, maybe you could say existence and non-existence at the same time. But an isness to it, a quality of presence. It will change. I have a belief. I admit it's a belief. I believe that nothing is more holy than your inner being. Your own inner being. I believe that nothing is more holy than your own inner being. We project it outside. And so we can reflect on ourselves. It's like when we fall in love. We project love on the other person. I'm in love with you. And then it goes back and forth, right? In meditation, we bring the attention back to our own inner being, breathing in and breathing out. With presence, gladdening the mind, opening to what is there already. My talk is much longer than half an hour. Is that all right?
We have 6 more days.
So it's important to become aware of self-judgment. I've noticed that self-judgment with many people stands in the way between experiencing yourself as free and as the mind as something. So self-judgment, just short sentence, self-judgment is something that has to do with survival and protecting our body, our mammal life. Our mind too, our ego of course, which is also a kind of survival thing. So I'm not going to go into psychology now, but I want to add that the particular or the personal flavor of each particular needs our compassion more than anything. The deeper we go, the more we start to see, my God, you start to see your mind, you start to see all these things the mind is doing, the places we're holding, the places that come back again, the issues we have, the pain that we create again and again for ourselves, or similar kind of situations. We need a great deal of compassion for ourselves, because it's not who you are, really. So the best thing we can do is to hold our totality, including the mind, the strategies, the whatever you want to call it, personality, ego, individual, sense of self, identity, particularness. And then true acceptance can come as a blessing, as a gentle rain. And the personal can surrender to the truth of this moment, allowing what is there to be there, without judgment, without saying there is anything wrong with you or me. There's nothing wrong with anybody. There's nothing wrong with the mind. The mind is just struggling to manage. The acceptance can come as a shower of gentleness, washing away our feverish rejection of our own thinking. And we can surrender to the existence, non-existence. And beingness can appear like a natural thing, because it's always there. It's already there. Because the particular is not I, it's just a fragrance of a particular flower. So relaxing as particular, sensing the interconnectedness with all things, opening to presence and the indivisible without denying the particular. Let this dance between the dancing and let this dance between go on, being and knowing. The dancing emptiness, vast as the sky. This is something that lies deeper than the familiar self. And in a retreat we get to see both the familiar and the unknown, or the indivisible moments. Little moments here and there suddenly become many moments, or of just sensing that emptiness and the love in that emptiness. So we can let the immediacy of presence inform us when we don't go along with the habitual mind. It doesn't mean we judge it, we don't take it so serious anymore. I have a poem here by Mary Oliver. It's one of my favorite contemporary American poets, very much quoted by many Dharma teachers. It's called Wild Geese, famous one. You do not have to be good. You do not have to walk on your knees for 100 miles through the desert repenting. You only have to let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. Tell me about despair, yours, and I will tell you mine. Meanwhile, the world goes on. Meanwhile, the sun and the clear pebbles of the rain are moving across the landscapes, over the prairies and the deep trees, the mountains and the rivers. Meanwhile, the wild geese high in the clean blue air are heading home again. Whoever you are, no matter how lonely, the world offers itself to your imagination, calls to you like the wild geese, harsh and exciting, over and over again, announcing your place in the family of things. I always shiver when I read this book. My hair stands on it. Do you have patience for another one? About beginner's mind. Never think that you know meditation because you've been meditating for 30 years. Every time on the cushion is the first time. I love that one. To have that attitude of beginner's mind. Once there was a monastery where everyone was getting old and no new adepts were coming. So they started to get worried because the monastery was going to die. One day Father George started asking around, each and every one, if they had seen Jesus. It was a Christian monastery. Everybody, one by one, admitted they had not seen Jesus. Maybe you should go up the hills and ask the old hermit. Father George packed his rucksack and brought some dry fruit and food for the hermit as a gift. And when he arrived, they greeted each other respectfully. The hermit asked, "What can I do for you, Father George?" And Father George told him everything about the monastery, about not getting new adepts, and finally, that no one had actually seen Jesus. And the atmosphere was heavy. They sat down to have a long conversation. And when Father George came back, all the other monks came to ask what the hermit had said. And Father George said, "The hermit told me that Jesus lives among us." What? Everybody started wondering, who might that be? Really? And somebody said, maybe it's Father Bob. He's always so kind to everyone. Another monk said, yeah, but maybe it's Father John. He's always giving good advice. And he's the wisest. Yes, but what about Father Simon? Someone said, he's the most innocent. And so it went on as they started seeing that Jesus could be in any one of them. And slowly the atmosphere started to change in the monastery. And new adepts started to come. So what can we learn from this? The mind can get stale. Is that the appropriate word? Stale, kind of emboxed and closed off, with fixed ideas and opinions and views. We think we've done this a long way now. We should have arrived somewhere. Meanwhile, the gardener is the master. Oh, I didn't tell that one. I have to tell you that one first. You know, you may have heard it, the man who came looking for the Zen master. He met the gardener and asked him, where can I find the master? He said, he's inside. You go inside and your master will come. So he went inside and sat down, waiting respectfully. And suddenly the gardener appeared in a different dress. See? So meanwhile, the gardener is the master and the Buddha, Jesus, is among us. The truth of liberating awareness, or our true nature, is here and accessible to each of us because it is who we are. It's what is. And this is a mirror, a reflection for us of this. So finally, Anicca, Dukkha, Anatta, impermanence, discontent and no self. 3 cards, 3 gems to keep in your pocket for life. Questions? Comments?
Can you say
The
the 3 cards again?
3,
The 3.
yeah. Anicca, Dukkha, Anatta.
And their translations?
Excuse me?
And their translations?
Anicca, impermanence. Nothing lasts. Dukkha, Dukkha is suffering, you know that. Discontent. And Anatta, no self. We are all the hero or the heroine in our own story, you know? The hero or the heroine in all the stories of the heroes. They venture out, leave their home, have challenges, meet different teachers and treasures, and get lost, and have all kinds of dangers. And in the end, they find the treasure, they come back, and they sit in their own garden, and they realize the treasure was there all the time. Thank you. So there is a time for walking meditation, a shorter time if you want to sit or continue sitting or go for walking. Please feel free.